Hello and welcome back to the Eyes of Ode gaming channel. Thank you so much for being here. Today I have another older game in my What Is It and Is It Worth It game review series. In this video I will go through the various aspects of the game, trying my best to avoid spoilers for new players, and give examples of similar games as well as my personal opinion as to whether I would recommend the game with a thumbs up or thumbs down, and if I personally enjoyed it. I won't be giving a number rating to the game as many other channels do, as I find this to be a very arbitrary way of rating games, which like any other entertainment is completely subjective, and instead I prefer to give enough info for you to make a decision on your own if you would like to go forward with picking up this title for yourself. Today's game we are looking at is Prince of Persia: The Forgotten Sands. This game was produced by Ubisoft and released in May of 2010. Making this game a whopping 10 years old, at least by the time you're seeing this review. Let's take a look at the game, what it is, what it's all about, and is it still worth it today, or has it held up? Please keep in mind that although my copy of the game is for the Xbox 360, all the footage I have captured is from the Xbox One, so the graphics may be slightly better than if you're playing this on an older console. So what is this game? Well, essentially, it is an action-adventure game that follows the story of the Prince of Persia and his brother, Malik! Where you will spend the majority of your time climbing, and climbing. There are also puzzles, traps, and combat thrown into the mix just to break up the very long climbing sequences. The game is presented as a puzzle-solving game through climbing, though I would say that there is not much in the way of solving puzzles. Basically, you just keep moving forward, and there's typically only one way to go, so it's hard to get lost. The combat is extremely easy, I found. From what I was able to see, there's only two difficulty settings, normal and easy. I played the game on normal and found the combat to be more of a distraction than anything without posing any real challenge. You really just keep pressing the same button over and over, and you will dominate your enemies easily. This gets compounded as you progress through the game, as you will unlock special powers as you go, making the combat even more trivial. The traps and climbing puzzles are also quite simple and boil down to timing. I found there was a greater challenge in fighting with bugs in the game's mechanics at very specific instances, as you gain more abilities than there was in actual puzzle solving. That's not to say that this is an overly buggy game, and it's actually rather smooth. However, bugs do pop up from time to time and can be exceptionally aggravating. The beginning prologue of the game will see you trying to catch up to your brother during a defensive siege of the city. As you jump and climb your way to a rendezvous, you will be harassed by enemy soldiers, but again, don't worry too much as the combat is really quite easy. Once you pass through this section of the game, it turns more supernatural as Prince of Persia games tend to be, and you will be battling skeleton sand creatures and other mythological monsters. Even the few boss-type enemies are really quite easy to defeat, so don't go into this expecting an engaging sword battling experience. The traps, which are quite numerous, have a very cliché Indiana Jones feel, and although it can feel a little cheesy, I did enjoy the campy feel that it brought to the adventure. The setting and story is also rather generic. The graphics and environment are serviceable, however I didn't feel there was really anything stand out, and the entire game felt like all the zones were nearly identical. I was somewhat surprised by how well the graphics have held up though. Although not beautiful, and as I mentioned very generic, there was no glaring examples where I felt like the game was super outdated. In terms of games I would compare to, good examples would be the God of War series, Dante's Inferno, Castlevania Lords of Shadow, and the Assassin's Creed series. The first three are good examples of how the game progresses. You are on the rails the entire game, pressing on through zones with puzzles and enemies. Though Assassin's Creed differs wildly from these games, with its open-world environments and taking quests in varying order, the climbing in this franchise is the only thing that is comparable to Prince of Persia, though much better developed in the Assassin's Creed franchise. So would I recommend this game? Well, it's hard to say. Although there's nothing wrong with the game, and I did find it enjoyable, I would say there's many others out there that are very similar but more interesting and varied. God of War, Dante's Inferno, and Castlevania all offer very similar gameplay, with more interesting environments and story. Assassin's Creed games give you a more fleshed out experience and better climbing options. All of them have a more engaging combat system. I would say if you're looking for a very casual, relaxing game that offers an easy playthrough and doesn't get too experimental, then you could find this one to be worth it. Otherwise, unless you're a huge fan of the franchise or really enjoy this style of older games, then you could safely pass on this one without missing too much. I'm sure there will be many people who disagree with me, as the game received mostly positive reviews. And really, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it or that it is inherently a bad game. Just slightly repetitive and kind of lackluster compared to others available now, but can still be enjoyable. I hope you found this video interesting or entertaining. If you did, please consider giving me a like, and also consider subscribing to my channel if you like this kind of content. I post a variety of gaming videos regularly and would love to have you join the community. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and until the next time, take care.